So how'd you get out of there?
Okay. Now, he had an air conditioner in the front living room, which the back room was really hot. I said, well, let's sit up here for a moment and get a breath of fresh air, because it's really hot. Then I go and pose for you, or what have you. So we sit on the sofa again, right? And he's sitting there in like a transcendent state, like rocking, like some type of ritual or what have you, okay? And so at that point, I was contemplating then. I said, well, I'm going to have to do something now. Either he's going to kill me anyway, so I might as well at least die trying, okay? At least get out trying or whatever, because I wasn't going to stand there. So he was just sitting there like I wasn't even there no more, in a transcendent state, just rocking and nodding, you know, and stuff like that. And then I said, well, I'm going to go to the bathroom, and he didn't respond right at that moment, okay? So I stood up, right? And I hit him in the head, like he was sitting just the same exact place as you are. And he had his head like turned more to the side, like. So I hit him right here. Okay, so I hit him right here. And his head turned over. And as I was getting up, I kicked him in the face, because I guess he didn't know I had martial arts experience too. You know, from my brother and my father, which, you know, and everything like that. And then I ran towards the door. As I was turning the door, I saw him swinging a blade at me, right about my head area. So I ducked, and I spin, and I hit him in the groin area. And then he kind of just like, it was like a glancing blow. It really didn't hurt him all that much. So he got up as I was turning the knobs to reach and grab my arm again, you know, and then I had to hit him again. And it just like, sit back and come back, you know, and told me that, you know. After he started grabbing me as I was going out the door.
You pull yourself away.
Right.
You run down one flight of stairs.
Right.
You're in the streets.
Right.
You run into a cop car right away?
Yeah, as soon as I get out. First, when I was running through the hall, I guess the people heard the struggle in the building. They asked me what was going on. I was so much in shock, I couldn't say anything. I just kept running until I saw the cops.
One evening in the summer of 1991, Tracy Edwards was drinking with his friends at Grand Avenue Mall in Milwaukee when he was approached by Jeffrey Dahmer. The two spent some time chatting and getting to know each other. Then Dahmer suddenly propositioned Edwards, inviting him back to his apartment to watch The Exorcist, have a few beers, and pose for some nude photos in exchange for money. Enticed by the offer, Edwards followed Dahmer home. But almost immediately, Dahmer's demeanor changed. Dahmer handcuffed Edwards and held him at knife point. For 4 hours, Tracy Edwards sat handcuffed in Dahmer's apartment, pleading with the killer to spare him. Dahmer refused, but he had put handcuffs on only one of Edwards' wrists, and this eventually enabled him to escape and make a run for it. Edwards fled Dahmer's home, running down the streets of Milwaukee with the handcuffs still dangling from his arm until he came upon a patrol car. Flagging it down, he explained to the officers that Dahmer had tried to murder him, and he led them back to Dahmer's house. The officers, however, weren't prepared for what they would discover. Inside Dahmer's home, they found the dismembered body parts of 11 men littered throughout. There were boxes of body parts and torsos hidden away in a barrel of acid, and 3 human heads stored in the refrigerator. Tucked away in a drawer, they found pictures Dahmer had taken of his victims. Following Dahmer's arrest, Tracy Edwards was hailed as a hero, the man who finally brought down the Milwaukee monster. But his newfound fame did anything but make his life easier. He made an appearance at Dahmer's 1992 trial, testifying against the killer and telling the court that the traumatic experience had ruined his life. He described his night in Dahmer's home, and that testimony ultimately played a role in Dahmer receiving 15 consecutive life sentences. With his face in newspapers countrywide and the national attention surrounding Dahmer's trial, Edwards essentially became a household name. Edwards sued the city police for $5 million for not following up on the numerous tips that had come in about Dahmer before July 1991. But the lawsuit was thrown out of court. A later class action suit that awarded restitution to the family members of Dahmer's victims unfortunately left Edwards out. Following Dahmer's arrest, trial, and ultimately his death, Tracy Edwards' string of bad luck continued. Upon returning to Milwaukee, he struggled to hold down a job or find a stable home. To cope with the trauma, Edwards abused drugs and drank alcohol excessively. He had no home, drifting from place to place, spending most of his time in and out of different homeless shelters. Reports show that Edwards was homeless from 2002 on, and he racked up various charges involving drug possession, bail jumping, and theft, among others. However, one event in 2011 brought him back into the public eye. Tracy Edwards was arrested on July 26, 2011, after he was accused of helping someone throw another man off a Milwaukee bridge. Ultimately, Edwards was charged with homicide, but he later pleaded guilty to the reduced charge of aiding a felon, landing him a sentence of 1.5 years. He served his time, but he has since disappeared from public view. Tracy Edwards never sought any kind of psychological or psychiatric treatment for what happened to him. Instead, he chose to self-medicate with alcohol and drugs. Most people consider him a near victim of Dahmer, which is unfair. He wasn't among the 17 men and boys who Jeffrey Dahmer killed, but his life was forever altered and ultimately ruined because of Dahmer.